Mayor, do you want to get started? It's 7:32.
I do. Welcome everybody to the January 27th, 2022 NATA meeting. So it's nice to see everybody, even if it's in Zoom and virtual. So can we have a motion to approve the December 16th, 2022 NATA meeting agenda minutes? Sorry, I said that all wrong.
So moved.
Thank you. I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Could you identify who's making the motion, please? Because we
will.
can't see everybody on the screen, and for the minutes, we need to know who it is.
Thank you. Guyleen Castriata made the motion and it was seconded by Nancy McNally. All those in favor, please signify by just raising your hand or say aye. I can't see anybody either. So on our agenda, we have the third option is going to be, oh, I see that it was changed. We did have the agenda that was sent out was that we were going to have a NATA executive board change, but we've moved that to the end of the agenda, if you don't mind. So let's go ahead with the treasurer's report.
Hear me? All
Well,
right.
we'll pull it up here for you, Mayor. Carson, do you have that? There we go.
All right. Thanks for pulling that up. So in the treasurer's report, you see we have a current balance of just over $9,400. We are anticipating all the cities need to turn in their dues, and once all the dues are turned in, we should have an operating fund of $36,765. There is a reduced cost we're getting from Smart Commute. It was just over 23,000 last year, and now it's down to 20,000. And it's for several reasons. You know, we have a reduced scope of needs, like we're not in person eating breakfast together. We don't have all that needed staff time in the traditional way we had the last several years. So that was very kind of them to do that. So and then the Smart Commute membership fee is, $12,500, and then our total operating expenses will be $32,500 anticipated. So I don't know if Deborah wants to chime in on anything, given they help us hold the funds, but that's it.
Thank you, Mayor Mills. Deborah Vasquez, City of Westminster staff, just to let you know that we've sent those invoices to our finance department and you should all be receiving your invoices soon. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg and Deborah. So we
Could we get a motion to accept?
Yeah. So we need to have a motion to accept the treasurer's report. Do we have a motion?
This is Nancy. I move that we accept the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Nancy. Do we have a second?
Second, this is Lynn Baca from Adams County.
Okay, the motion has been moved by Nancy McNally to accept the treasurer's report, seconded by Lynn Baca. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Lynn has her hand up. Lynn is, no, now her hand's down. So let's have a NATA 2021 year in review report.
Should we move this one to the end, the 2022 Sbc appointments, Carson? Okay.
Thank you, Carson.
So I'm happy to give this if you'd like, Mayor Pack. Just wanted to remind everyone that we do a lot of work in a year. Looking back, wanted to highlight the things that we've done as NATA, a collaborative group of 13 jurisdictions, working toward transportation improvements that enhance mobility, economic vitality, and sustainability. We generally have anywhere from 45 to 65 people at our meetings. I think we are considered a fairly significant stakeholder in everything transportation. And I appreciate the continued support we get from all of the jurisdictions being willing to loan their elected officials to this board of directors and taking turns being the chair. It's an important job, and we really appreciate the continuity from all of you. I think we're into 12th or 13th year at NATA now, so really do appreciate that. So in 2021, we wrote a lot of letters of support, a couple of letters to Secretary Buttigieg on support for a 2021 infra grant for Colorado Interstate 270 Corridor and Safety Mobility Project. Also a letter to Secretary Buttigieg in June. In July, support for Longmont's 2021 Grace Grant application for State Highway 119 in Hover. Safety first, equity always, connections for all. In April, NATA wrote a letter supporting Smart Commute's Can Do Colorado Community Telework Grant. Our grant application was supporting continued telework through expert wellness education. We did get that grant, so we really appreciate that. In June, we wrote a letter to Senator John Hickenlooper regarding the congressionally directed spending funds, supporting Erie's request for funding for moving the CO7 I-25 mobility hub project funding. And then in November, we wrote a letter to Francis Bourne of the FTA supporting Commerce City's Chrissy grant request for 85th and US 85 and 120th Avenue interchange. The way these letters come about are requests from the jurisdictions. If they're on the project priority list, then we automatically will write a letter in support because we've already endorsed those projects in the project priority list. If it's something that's not on the project priority list, it just has to come to NATA or to Sbc to get a blessing of a letter of support. The letters of support really just say who we are, why we're supporting it, and encouraging the advocacy for that project. Next slide, please. These are the presentations we had last year, and some of them are pretty significant. Early in January, we had the greenhouse gas roadmap update as the Transportation Commission. We're looking at putting a rulemaking in place that would require all projects of regional significance go through an evaluation of the impacts of greenhouse gas on their projects. In February, we talked a lot about the MLine, the RTD Accountability Committee overview. You know, our own Julie Mullica sat on the RTD Accountability Review Committee and headed up the Governance Committee. We had CDOT bring in Ryan Sorensen talking about the Colorado 7 Corridor Development Plan. And through the year, while the legislature were in session, we had Megan McKillop. Thanks so much, Megan, for giving us a CML legislative update. In March, although ROTUS didn't give us the unsolicited proposal presentation, we saw the bones of that unsolicited presentation. That was a proposal for the I-25 development and funding proposal to fund and build the remainder of the managed lane system on North I-25 from US 36 up to Fort Collins. We gave a report on the Bike to Summer campaign. We had in March also thumbnail highlights of the Main Street grant projects in Commerce City, Erie, Longmont, Northglenn. And then Rebecca White and Molly Bly gave us an overview of the second phase of that Revitalizing Main Street Stimulus Program, encouraging all the jurisdictions to put in applications for projects within their jurisdictions to get some of this money. In April, we did the prior project priorities list update, and Broomfield gave us an overview of their Safer Main Streets project. And that was Sarah Grant, the Broomfield Transportation Manager. And then as things were percolating with this program that was coming out of the Regional Air Quality Council and the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, there was an effort to put in a program called Employee Traffic Reduction Program, which would require employers of 100 or more to put in a program that reduced their employee footprint on traffic. And we got an update on that, an overview of the program from Clay Clark. Next slide, please. In June, we had another update on the Employee Traffic Reduction Program from Kit Sanders in our staff. I did a transportation legislative briefing on some of the bills that CDOT was looking at. Deborah Johnson, GM of RTD, and Bill Soroy gave us an RTD system-wide fare study and equity analysis overview. And Julie Mullica told us about what was happening with the RTD Accountability Committee as they put in draft recommendations in that committee. In July, we had the notice that the Employee Trip Reduction Program met its death. It was pulled, wasn't going to happen this year, and we gave an overview of the demise of that program with a little bit of a caveat that we didn't know if it was coming back or not. I believe that we all believe that it's not coming back this year, but maybe in the future. I think the TMOs were all a little unhappy that it wasn't coming back because it's really a wonderful way to reduce congestion and improve air quality by helping all employers do a program that would help their employees carpool, vanpool, and take transit. We unveiled our 3 telework videos that came from that Can Do Colorado grant that we got. And we talked about a grant that we got from Colorado Energy Office called the e-bike program. We called ours Loan to Own e-bike program. It's income verified program for low income workforce getting to work on an e-bike. And that's been a very successful program. We'll come back to you this year with an update on that program. And then we had Rebecca White and Paul Jositis of CDOT give us an update on SB 260 and the stimulus funds project and the GHG rulemaking as it was moving forward. In August, we had a more substantial presentation on GHG rulemaking. We had a presentation from Nick Farber, who is the executive director of HPTE, talking about the I-25 Express Lanes Tiffy loan that HPTE was going after. And Julie Skeen gave RTD's Reimagine update. And then Andres Carrera, who often attends our meetings and gives us a lot of updated information, and we appreciate his involvement with us. Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act overview. In September, Bike to Work report, and we always do a North Metro commuter survey, and we gave an overview of that, and you'll see a little bit more in the following slides on that. Front Range Passenger Rail Special District update from Jim Suby, who's the chair of that committee. And we had CDOT's Chief Engineer, Steve Harrelson, give us an update on Eisenhower Johnson Memorial Tunnel. And one of the reasons we did that was because there was significant funding from the stimulus that went into doing about 1/3 of what needs to be done up at the Eisenhower Tunnel. The money came out of Region 1, and I think a number of mayors in Region 1 wondered why Region 1 was putting money into this, and that was a good explanation of the need and why that happened. And then I've been on the greenhouse gas rulemaking ad hoc committee since it started, and I think at that point we gave a CDOT greenhouse gas rulemaking update. Next slide, please. In October, we told about our RTD Rider Appreciation Outreach, and Ron Popstorff from Dr. Cog, who joins us almost every month, gave us an overview of call for projects and development for 2024-27 TIP. And Deborah Baskett and Tim Williams gave a Federal Boulevard study recommendations presentation that was really had so much information and links to how we could be interactive with that study. And then in December, we talked about the carbon footprint analysis that Smart Commute is doing, and something that we'll offer to anybody who wants it this next year. Tom McGinnis from CDOT was very gracious to jump in and give us a review of the I-270 bus tour that CDOT did with stakeholders, and the I-25 bus tour with stakeholders, with CDOT and mayors and senior transportation staff. And Deborah Johnson, the RTD GM, talked to us in length about some of the problems that we're hearing on the news and have heard personally, the Union Station concourse safety issues, and what RTD is doing to address those challenges. And then Andreas gave us another update on the bipartisan infrastructure framework. We did a lot in 2021. I think the amount of information that comes out of NATA really helps us do a better job focusing on what we can advocate for and what we should keeping our eye on. So I think that's a really significant list of presentations that we had. I'm exhausted just reading it. Then some of the ongoing focus, of course, is we updated the mission statement and the shared values and the master projects list, which we do every quarter, update on some of the inline operational challenges and the RTD Accountability Committee. We appreciate our RTD directors who join us every month and give us an update from their perspective. And with discussions that are ongoing with the RTD Affairs evaluation and local versus regional service boundaries and service. And I think we'll hear a little more about that today. And then always legislative updates are welcome. Last year we had a NATA retreat in April. I'm happy to answer any questions, or we can go on to the next piece on the agenda.
Karen, thank you so much for that update. And I'm always shocked at how much this group actually gets done. We are powerful, and I think we need to stay that way. So thank you very much. Our next Smart Commute 2021 year in review, was that included? There we go.
Yeah, and I'll let Carson do this one.
Okay.
And it's got a lot of graphics to it, so it's kind of, you know, punchy, a little more punchy.
Okay. Carson.
To the eyes. Thank you.
Pleasing to the eyes,
Chair.
yeah.
Here's a list of our recently ratified 2022 board and officers. We have a lot of senior officials and C-suite level folks on our board. A lot of you guys, I'm sure, all know these folks, but we're really proud of this board and we work really hard for them to be engaged and are happy to have them with us for 2022. I'm going to step through a series of slides that goes through infographics of what Smart Commute accomplished in 2021. If you receive our newsletter and are able to read it, these were in our end of year newsletter, but I think it's worth highlighting some of these. I'll go through them rather quickly. In 2021, we served 157 employers representing about 29,000 employees, with all the 13 NATA jurisdictions represented, serving 720,000-ish residents in this area. In 2021, we created those 3 teleworking videos from the Can Do Colorado grant, with 33 minutes of those videos created from an expert physical therapist focusing on telework, mental health, physical health, and ergonomics. Those were really successful, and we have lots of views on our YouTube, and we think they've been a great resource for folks as they read those 13 tips to learn more about their telework health as we all sit at our homes, a lot of us working from home. We launched the e-bike program in 2021, and here's some stats from that. 13,700 minutes biked across a little over 2,000 miles, with a little over 4,000 pounds of CO2 reduced from that biking. There were 138 e-bike inquiries for our program, with over 300 interactions generated from those inquiries. There were 5 safety training events with 11 income qualified participants. 10 of those were in our first phase, and we anticipate phase 2 launching later in the spring when the weather improves a little bit, so we can have a good launch of phase 2. The Wagon Road Flex Ride, as you guys are all aware, serving 144th and I-25 from Wagon Road, was in its second year. It served 28,617 riders as of October, so that's a little higher than that, probably over 30,000 almost. Our customer service manager had 24/7 calls answered for folks to get on the bus and try it. There were 11 specific outreach events reaching 58 riders specifically targeted to that Flex Ride conducted in 2021. We had over 300 social media posts. We really bolstered our social media efforts in 2021, thanks to Tammy on our staff. We had over 22,000 impressions. Over 11,000 of our website visits were bolstered because of that effort, with 28 new YouTube videos and 59 hours of watch time. This is really important for us as we try to pivot our outreach continually toward a virtual setting, as in person it still continues to be challenging for us. Bike to Summer was launched in 2021 as we looked toward the later launch of Bike to Work Day in September. We saw an opportunity throughout the summer during those biking months to really push biking in the North Metro area and partner with all of our jurisdictions that hosted biking events. So there were 6 events we went to, partnering with 4 jurisdictions and over 1,200 participants biking at those events. And just from those specific Bike to Summer 80 social media posts, we had over 7,000 impressions, hopefully reaching a good audience here in the North Metro. A good quote here, the community full moon bike rides, specifically in North Glen, were an excellent way to meet fellow cyclists of all ages and explore the trails in our community together. This is Carl. He came out to all of the North Glen community bike rides, full moon bike rides, was a great advocate for us this year. Later in the year, we hosted a series of Thanks for Riding RTD rider appreciation events at the various inline stations and park and rides in the North Metro area. At those events, we had over 500 rider interactions, 11 events, and 6 stations were covered. We wrote over 10 pages of notes that we sent directly to RTD staff and board to try to get some on-the-ground feedback for anything as small as the ticket box is in the wrong location to that there's too many delays on the train. We heard a lot about the 122X not coming back, just various feedback like that we were able to pass on from those riders that take it every single day. And we say here we have 8 boxes of coffee we provided those early morning 5:30 a.m. Wagon Road Park and Ride folks with 1 cup spilt. I think that's a little exaggerated, but that's okay. Here's a good quote from a 120X rider. I really appreciate RTD. It lets me see downtown, get to work, get to fun. I moved here from New York City and I love the fresh air here, seeing people outside. Thanks for being here. That was just a nice positive quote we heard from somebody that came from an area that has really rich transit. Just a couple more here. We helped plan and attend the first annual CDOT and Rocky Mountain Act TDM conference. Welcoming statements were given by our very own Karen Stewart, Smart Commute Executive Director. There were almost 150 folks at that conference, which is really good for a first annual. And there were supporting roles given by me and Catherine on our staff. The employee traffic reduction program for the first half of the year really took up a lot of our time as we were really geared toward getting our employers ready for that regulation. We spent over 170 hours in advocacy meeting with regulators, trying to shift that language around as best we could. There were 32 specific employer meetings we held with employers to discuss the ETRP and what it might mean for them. 18 large employers were provided with a custom ETRP evaluation in preparation for that. Our North Metro Commuter Survey had 2,300 responses from all 13 jurisdictions covered in the NATA region. That is our highest response ever, which is a really great target for us. The average commute in the North Metro is 12.8 miles, which is pretty long. And almost 30% of folks going to work are driving kids to or from school or daycare, which is a big hindrance in our industry for getting folks to try secondary options rather than just driving alone. So that's an interesting statistic. The final thing here is Smart Commute is a 501c3 status with, I think we might have more than 11 board members with 5 staff members. The average TMA in the Denver metro region's budget is $591,964 for last year, and ours is $258,103. So we have a lot. We like to show this slide because we give a lot of bang for our buck in the North Metro region, we think. And I think that's it, Chair. I'm happy to take questions, comments. Thanks for taking the time. I think you might be on mute. Sorry.
Julie Mullica.
All right, thank you so much. Well, really just a comment. I just want to throw a huge congratulations out for the work that you guys done over this past year. You know, Smart Commute is an amazing organization for our region. And when it comes to actually, you know, engaging with riders and transit users of any type, you guys are the feet on the ground and you guys are the one doing that work. And I know we like to talk about policy and all of the higher level things, but when it comes to the actual work, you guys are doing that and doing that fantastically. So thank you all, the entire team, for all of your hard work and dedication, and really just trying to engage, you know, our residents. It just means so much. So great year. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Mayor Greg Mills.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Carson for highlighting the events that go on. I do want to highlight, though, that the City of Brighton does do a full moon bike ride as well, and we have a growing amount of participants every year. So just wanted to make sure that's highlighted as well.
Thank you. I can't see the screen, so I'm not sure that if there are any other hands up.
To address Mayor Mills, we love those bike rides, and your staff does a wonderful job. We were able to attend a few of those. Sorry, I didn't pull a good quote from that this year. I just found one from our North Clinton resident, but we were there, and they are literally region leading in their respect. So thank you for that.
I would just call out that we use the Brighton Full Moon bike ride program that you've had for many years as a template to encourage other communities to do the same thing. We really probably should have highlighted how important that Brighton Full Moon bike ride was to us as we set our Bike to Summer program together. We didn't have to create it because we replicated what Brighton does. So thanks so much for calling that out. Your Brighton biking community is pretty impressive.
Good. It's exciting. I think any of these biking programs are very, very important. So thank you. I know that Longmont has a biking. I'm not sure what we did, if we had much participation in the full moon bike ride. Phil, is Phil on the call? Can you update us on that? Were we involved? I don't see. Okay, Jessica Sandgren has her hand up.
Thank you, Joan. I was just going to say it would be fun if we could have some sort of a regional bike ride one day. I know with the Adams County trail system, it would be a long bike ride, but wouldn't that be fun?
It would be great fun. Put that on the agenda for next year. All right, thank you for that update on Smart Commute. We need a report on NATA's subcommittee meeting on I-25 and 84th to 104th, that improvement project.
Thank you. Before we do that, I'd like to insert something important here, and that is the introduction of our new CDOT Region 1 Director, Jessica Mickelbust, who's with us today. We're so thrilled to have her. She's replacing Paul Desitis, who retired in December. Jessica's been really involved with us for the past several years, in a deputy position. And I'd like to just welcome Jessica and give her a chance to say a few words. I didn't tell you ahead of time, Jessica, that I was going to ask you to do this, but if you're prepared, would you mind letting us see your face and introducing yourself?
Yeah, hi, good morning. Thanks, Karen. That's really kind of you. Thanks for the nice words. Really excited to step into the RTD role. The NATA group is something I've followed for years in my career. I've never really joined the meeting, so looking forward to participating with all of you, as we make our way to improve the transportation network in Region 1. So I was looking at the attendee list. I've met a lot of you and many new names that I haven't seen before. So hopefully at some point in time, we'll get a chance to say hello in person, but please feel free to reach out with questions or comments. And yeah, just really look forward to getting going. So my first day is actually Monday of next week. So thanks, Karen.
Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you.
So do we want to do the I-25/84th improvement project?
Yes, and if you don't mind, I'd like to turn this over to Councilmember Mullica to talk about the initial meeting that we had, and then maybe a little bit of the highlights of this slide. We did a whiteboard after we had that initial meeting. The initial meeting really was to talk about the history of the improvements from the EIS to the EA and beyond. So Julie, if you're able to go over this slide, if not, I can do it.
No, yep, I'm able. So
Great.
the subgroup met on January 18th. So this was our first meeting, just kind of pulling this group together. Our agenda, our couple first agenda items were really just background. Honestly, we have some new faces to this group, some folks who just needed to be updated on where we were at with this project. So we did a robust background on really where we got stuck with this whole project. And then Karen did go through a couple of the alternatives. What are some ways that we can move forward? And that's the first bullet you'll see here on this slide is how do we come to a consensus on an alternative? So, as we're considering different solutions that are available to us, we as a group need to figure out, what is the best way to advocate for one particular solution over the other. So we also have, the alternatives have a variety of things to them. So like, do they include a center loading platform? Is that something essential to this project? And, talking about the bridge prioritization. So we have a lot to consider in there. And then, of course, we have also a huge demand on 270. Is there a 270 versus I-25, prioritization or something that we need to be thinking about? And we just want to make it really clear that, there isn't a prioritization on here. Both of these projects are really important to us and to Adams County. And so really making sure that conversation is clear when we start engaging and see that is something that we want to stay on message on. So some of the next steps we're looking at, we're going to invite CDOT to our next meeting. And that way that we could really unpack some of these issues and some of these alternatives that we're discussing. A lot of it, we need updated information on costs, right? So how are those changing? What happened to the EA is a huge question on a lot of our minds. So a lot of these questions can be, unpacked with a CDOT conversation. And so that's what we're hoping to have on our next meeting. So moving forward, we are thinking about expanding it out to other stakeholders, such as, meeting with RTD, talking about different funding opportunities, and then also inviting state legislators and congressional representatives. What we really want to do here is build a coalition around this project to move it forward. It's been stalled for too long. And it's definitely something that's a priority that needs to continue and see a path forward. So we're hoping that our next conversation with CDOT can help give this group some clarity on how to move forward. So that's just a brief update of our discussion on the 18th. And I'll take any questions. And if I can't answer them, I'll give them to Karen.
All right, seeing none, I'm going to just mention that I'm working now with CDOT R1 to put together a doodle poll of when we can meet with them. We'll start with that meeting first. I'd like to see a number of meetings within each month so that we can move this forward as fast as possible as the federal funding. Sorry, I have a dog playing with a toy. I'd like to see this move forward because there's federal funding opportunities that we might be able to do something with. Really would love to see transit and highway funding opportunity put together. I think we're going to have to look at a number of ways to find a significant amount of funding to do this. And as CDOT's looking at the 10-year reprioritization list, I'd like to get some kind of push sooner than later. It looks like in July is when the 10-year plan will be updated by then. So we don't have a lot of time. So all of you who are on the subcommittee will send out a doodle poll here pretty soon. And then I think anybody else who wants to join this committee could do that as well. I think we had about 18 people at our initial meeting. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you for that report, Julie. Next, we have the RTD Directors Report, and I see several directors on. I'll let you decide who goes first with your reports.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And that seems to fall to me, so I'll
Okay.
start things out. I see directors Whitmore and Cook are also here, along with a number of senior RTD staff, and of course, our GM CEO, Deborah Johnson. I so appreciate her being here and listening into what we're all discussing. So interesting start of our new year. We will begin a new committee structure at RTD, which really streamlines our committee function and makes our board, these committee and board meetings, hopefully much more efficient. So that's a new thing for RTD, and looking forward to see how that shakes out. We've got a new executive committee consisting of first vice chair Lynn Geisinger, second vice chair Peggy Catlin, secretary Marjorie Sloan, and the treasurer Troy Whitmore. Great addition to the executive committee, and looking forward to doing a lot of work. Executive committee is taking on the government relations function that used to be a separate subcommittee. So a lot of interesting changes. We've been talking a lot about our system optimization plan, and the Reimagine RTD group has been working on this for a couple of years now, and this is the product that's coming out of those efforts. And there's opportunity for public input. The opportunity currently expires around at February 9th, 2022. I know a lot of our stakeholders have given input, sent emails or letters to RTD, and I encourage everyone else to take a hard look at the system optimization plan and give your public comment to RTD, because this is going to be something that drives our planning efforts for the next several years. And it kind of follows this system and theory proposed by Jarrett Walker, who's a transit expert in the country. And it's this concept of ridership versus coverage. And where do you put your focus? Is it where your core, demographic where you have heavy ridership, or do you need to also focus on coverage like in our suburban areas? So there's a tension there between, how you do that, how you make it work. So anyway, log in. RTD's got an interactive map that you can see exactly what's going on in your areas, and please make your comments known there as well. So I think that's all I have. I've also appointed an ad hoc committee to look at our internal audit function and see how that's going. And I also appointed an ad hoc committee to explore Tabor and the future impact Tabor will have on RTD and how we may strategize to avoid the negative impacts. And that's all I have, Madam Chair. Thanks. I'll turn it over to Director Whitmore.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And Vince is very humble. He talked about the whole executive committee except himself. Very proud to have him be the chair of the board for RTD. But also note, Director Davidson is on the call but unable to speak, and Eric has become chair of the Finance and Planning Committee, which is a committee of 7 of us instead of our old status of committees of the whole. So we have 3 main committees of 7, 5, and 5 with just a couple of duplications, but most of us are on one committee. I think it's going to be a very efficient way of moving things along, and all directors are certainly welcome to participate, but there's only the assigned voting structure of the 7, 5, and 5. And Vince did a masterful job of getting the right people on the right committees. Everybody seems to be content, and we're off to a great start for the year. So I don't have anything more to add. The points that Vince made are really at the forefront right now. So I would yield floor time to one of many staff members if there is any input, because I do know we have Deborah and Henry and Pauline and Michael and 2 or 3 others. So with that, I'll go back to mute. So thank you for the time. Perhaps Director Cook has something she'd like to add.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm glad you said something about our new chair because that's big news and really good news as well. The one thing I would add on the system optimization plan, it's the first half really are product of the Reimagine effort that was undertaken a couple of years ago. And the second part, well, let's just preface that and say that to the extent that the service is being condensed, or in some cases routes are being truncated, to focus more on areas with denser populations that are equity populations and so forth. That means that this mobility plan for the future, the second half, which provides for some potential for expansion of service via partnerships and micro-mobility options and things like that, that becomes more important, I think, for suburbs. So it's a particular interest of mine. In fact, your Wagon Road Flex Ride came up last night in a discussion with the Transportation Committee out in Arvada as one model that's really successful and that they might look to in considering partnerships of the same sort. So with that, there is one little local thing. If you've noticed, there's an aluminum protective barrier that failed on Sheridan at about 60th. It's over the railroad tracks in Catenary. That responsibility falls to DTO, Denver Transit Operators, and they put in an interim barrier and were able to reopen the sidewalk. But at some point coming up here soon, they're going to have to reclose that sidewalk in order to repair that. Okay, thank you.
And Madam Chair, I guess I was negligent in talking about one thing. I was asked to talk about the N line and some recent drop runs and delayed runs. And I'll have to just say that this is not only the N line that is experiencing it. It's all of our rail and bus operations. And the reason is, of course, COVID and the Omicron variant, which has really impacted our operators significantly. And Ms. Johnson, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that in the last month, we've had like a 25% increase in positivity rates among our operators. And so we're doing our best with the number of operators we have. And that's the reason why N-Line and all of our other system has been experiencing some of these delays and drop runs.
Mr. Chair, if I may just insert just for a point of clarification as relates to the N-Line, and that is a commuter rail line due to the fact that we're running on an active railroad right away and it's overseen by the Federal Railroad Administration. We have to have a second crew member. And the reason why we're having a larger propensity of dropped runs is due to the fact that we don't have that federally mandated crew member. For all intents and purposes, on the commuter rail lines, we do have conductors, operators that are available. On the other aspects of our system, to the point that Chair Busick raises, absolutely correct. We have taken a hard hit as relates to the Omicron variant. Just over the course of this month, we've had a 25% increase as relates to employees running the gamut across the organization being impacted. And that is basically on the shoulders of the vacancies in which we just had from the big quit or the great resignation. So it has just exacerbated. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to qualify the second crew member piece.
Thanks for that clarification. That's all I have.
Ms. Johnson, did you want to further a report, or is that the extent of what you needed to say today?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I believe that covers it. The directors did a great job. And if there's any questions from anybody, I'm happy to fill those. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any questions for the RTD directors? I see Julie Molka.
Hi, yeah, a quick question for anyone who wants to jump in. What is RTD doing about employee recruitment? Are you guys offering sign-on bonuses, or what kind of incentives are you offering for folks to join the team?
So thank you very much for the question, Councilmember Molka. Basically, what we're doing is a myriad of things. We're trying to optimize a talent acquisition strategy. We're in the midst, as we've said before, of this great resignation. So there's a myriad of different factors, recognizing that RTD is a labor-intensive environment. We have leveraged some incentives as it relates to bonuses for some hard-to-recruit positions, and those are mainly frontline positions, ranging from operators, mechanics, facility maintenance personnel. And in doing so, it's incentive for those that come on board and they have to meet some critical milestone steps, but we're trying to be more competitive. And without speaking out of school here, we are actively negotiating a collective bargaining agreement because 2/3 of our workforce is represented. So contingent upon the outcomes of a successful collective bargaining agreement, we look to increase wages if that is deemed amenable on both sides of the table. But that is our intent there, which we believe will incentivize some folks. But these positions deal a lot with human interaction, and in light of where we are with the Omicron variant and with news yesterday coming out of Santa Clara County in California, where there's another mutation now of the Omicron variant, we'll see how that shakes out. So I hope that addresses your question.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mayor Mills?
Yeah, I just want to take a quick second to verbally congratulate Vince for taking the chair role. I believe only about 1/3 of the RTD directors live north of I-70, so it's really important to recognize that we have executive leadership on our side of the RTD spectrum here. So congratulations, Vince.
Thank you, Mayor.
I don't see any other hands up. Do you, Carson?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say that our city also is experiencing, as I am sure others are, with this employee being affected by this Omicron variant. So I do have sympathy, I guess, for Deborah Johnson in trying to fulfill all these positions, and it is hurting every aspect of RTD. So you do have that empathy there for that, Ms. Johnson. Thank you for those updates. We really need to discuss the NATA retreat now. So Karen?
Chair, could I just ask that we go back one bullet to the NATA position on the RTD systems optimization plan? As Chair Busick talked about it, they're
Yes.
looking for public input. I saw that both Sarah Grant and General Manager Johnson put the link in there. And I'm wondering if RTD or if NATA wants to take a position collectively on commenting on the SOP, or whether it's a better strategy and a more efficient strategy to just have each of the jurisdictions look at the SOP and then send in comments. You know, this is our opportunity to be a significant stakeholder in the process. And we are, as both Mayor Mills and as all three, and Chair Busick and Director Cook all talked about, you know, we are not the center of Denver. We're not where the ridership is the greatest. And so under this SOP, there are some significant pieces that will affect outlying service to the suburbs. And so it might be a good idea to make sure that everyone is aware that they can weigh in on this SOP and encourage all the jurisdictions to do so, but also ask, does NATA want to take a position on the SOP? And if so, could I get some direction? We can write a letter on behalf of NATA if that's the desire of NATA. Thank you.
Do we have anyone that would like to weigh in on that comment and see what we want to do here? Julie Mullica?
Yeah, so I think it's more of a process question. So Karen, are you thinking that, you know, technical staff gather, you know, individual cities' input, and then we put that in a letter and send it to RTD? Is that a plan?
Yeah, I was thinking more generally that we have a statement that reflects our mission, which is, of course, to provide mobility options, economic vitality, and sustainability. And I think we could, in general, speak to those in our response to the SOP and encourage service being continued to the areas where there isn't yet robust ridership. And I guess it would be up to everyone at NATA whether they would like a letter like that sent in as comment, or I think it would take too long to get everything back from everyone. I believe you're wanting the comments by early February into RTD's consultants. So I'm looking mainly, I think, for a nod, yay or nay. Should we craft a letter, we would send it all out to all of you before we sent it.
I would like to weigh in on this. I feel that the SOP has not really changed much for the outlying areas, the rural areas, because the service hasn't been robust anyway. So to make that a public statement that because of ridership, because of where you are, you're not a dense area, that your service is going to be either truncated or completely removed. I feel that it is somewhat a slap in the face to some of the areas and that are constantly having this discussion with RTD over the years, is that we don't have the ridership because we don't have the service. So to have a statement from Reimagine that just puts a stamp of approval on that, to me is frustrating. So I wouldn't mind personally having a statement from NATA. So do I see any other, Carson, I again can't see the whole screen. Do you see any hands up?
Sure, I do see one. Go ahead if you have your hand up. Sorry, I missed it.
Lynn Baca.
And take myself off mute. Good morning, everyone. So I think the timing may not be in the favor for NATA to submit a letter overall, but I think each jurisdiction should take a look at the SOP and maybe submit it on their behalf of what they feel that it's positive. I think that this is a positive step for RTD, and I think that that needs to be acknowledged, and that as jurisdictions, we've been frustrated in the past, but I think that we want to come together as a collaborative effort, support the efforts. Hiring and COVID and service has been an issue for all of us. So I think Adams County is going to take that step, and I don't know if the timing's going to work out that we can do one from NATA, but I'll support what the group would like to do.
So I guess we're a little bit in limbo here as this has just come up, and I'm not sure everybody has had time to actually think this through.
Mayor Castriata has her hand raised.
Mayor Castriata.
I kind of am ambivalent, maybe we need to do a little poll with the group and see where we land, because I kind of agree with what you said, Mayor Peck, and then I kind of agree with Commissioner Baca. So whatever the group wants.
Well, let me offer this. How about I write something up that looks at the SOP and has that is related to our mission statement and our goals at NATA, and send it out to NATA and get some feedback on that. And you can decide whether it's got any significance for us or not. Certainly don't mind if you don't want to do that. Happy to do it if you do want to do it. But how about if I write something up, send it to you on Monday? No, I guess today's Thursday. I can send it to you tomorrow, and just have you look at it. And if you think it has merit, we can send it in. It's really not different than what it would be calling out what our mission is as NATA. But that's my offer. And Mayor Peck, I see Mayor McNally has her hand up.
Mayor McNally, thank you, Karen. I didn't see that.
Thanks. I think more input is better than less input. So I would welcome looking at a letter from NATA, because it's all of us together, but that doesn't preclude each of the organizations doing their own letter either. I think more is better in these cases.
Good point. Is there anyone else that I can't see who has their hand up? Okay, so from my perspective, Karen, I think that's a good idea, just restating NATA's mission, and that individually as municipalities or counties, we can weigh in on that. So let's just do a real fast yay or nay, not a vote, but just to get a feel for if this is the way that everyone wants to go. So all those that would agree that we need to allow Karen to write a letter stating NATA's position. Can I just hear a voice? Yes.
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 Okay, great. Thanks. There you go. There's your direction, Karen.
Thank you very much. I'll try to put something together that's succinct but meaningful.
Okay, thank you very much. The next thing on our agenda then is the whiteboard discussion, presentation topics for 2022. But Karen, this is for your opinion. Do you think that we should, before we have the discussion for 2022, talk about the change in the NATA executive?
Yes, and I apologize, Chair. We have changed the agenda a little bit, and I think you might be looking at the first agenda that we sent you. We wanted to have a quick discussion on the NATA retreat, and then the vote to change executive board, and then a ratification of the SBC. So I'm sorry, we pulled a fast one on you this morning when we made some changes to accommodate the discussion. So I think all of that should happen before you have the whiteboard discussion. So the next piece on this, this agenda would be your discussion that we had at SBC on the possibility of a NATA retreat.
Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification. So the NATA retreat, we had discussed a couple of things, and that we NATA had put a down payment on a venue already, and that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Karen.
Oh, no, we didn't. That was a couple of years ago. We had a venue that we used, but we've not put a down payment on anything. And I think if we were to have one in person, we would try to get somewhere that was for free.
Great.
Which is always our first choice.
So I guess the real discussion is, should we have this in person or should we have it virtual? The Omicron variant is the driver, I think, of this at the moment. However, I had not heard about the new mutated variant that Deborah Johnson just brought up in California. So can we just have some discussion and input from the other members on NATA as to what your opinion is, first of all, of in-person or virtual? How do you feel about that? If it's in person, it probably, the retreat last year was okay, but there is something about in person, seeing each other, socializing, getting to just chat and getting to know each other, catching up. However, if the members feel that this Omicron is too widespread, then I guess that is an opinion I would like to hear. In-person and masking, virtual, all of this discussion needs to happen. So I would like Mayor Mills, looks like he has some input.
I just really quick, I'm comfortable meeting in person and having this retreat in person. I think we collaborate better when we are together in person, and we can have less technical difficulties if we can do this in person. And I'm sure we can find a free venue to do that. I mean, I bet you we have space in some of our city facilities if needed here in Brighton. That's all.
I think there's space all over the place now. Lynn Baca.
Good morning. I'm also comfortable meeting in person, and we would be happy to look for space as well. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Julie?
Yeah, I was just gonna follow suit. I think, you know, by the time we get this planned and put together, you know, I feel like this Omicron wave is probably gonna be behind us. So I think in person is great, not only to meet people. I think when we used to meet in person for NATA, it was a great networking event, and I'd love to see us return back to something like that again.
And I have no problem being in person, and really truly loved the in-person events. They were very productive. So is there any other opinions out there, or?
Mayor Castriata has her hand up.
Thank you. Guyleen, Mayor Castriata.
Thank you. What is the timeline on this retreat? Well,
that is another point of discussion.
Okay. Is it usually in the spring, or is it fairly coming up? I just, more of a general ballpark. I feel like we're kind of peaking with the Omicron, and we're starting to see a downward trend, which is encouraging. Since we're a city and a county, I'm the chair of the Board of Health here. So I get some really good information really quick. So we're not quite out of the woods yet, but our public health director is very encouraged by, the plateau and now the downward trend, if that helps. And I much prefer in person for relationship building. And there's so many, new representatives. That would be my first choice.
Okay, and I had heard the reports that we're getting is that it's peaking now, and in March it would be pretty low percentages of people that were being infected. So that's something to consider. Do I have any other hands up?
Last year we did it in April, and it wasn't really too late. February will be too soon, I think. And then March, I don't know how many of you are going to Washington in March, whether that's an opportunity again or not, whether you're going to do stuff virtually. There's also spring break in March. So we had a hard time scheduling. And so last year we did it virtually, but we did it in March. The year before that, we did it in person, and we did it in February. So it's really up to the board. And then I think the other discussion is when we did it last year, we did a short NATA meeting, and then did it right after the NATA meeting on that Thursday, the fourth Thursday of the month, because that's in everybody's calendar. In February or in April last year, it was easy to do that virtually. In the year before, we did it on a Saturday morning. So I think that's a discussion you can either punt to the SPC to talk about in February, or you can take some input right now as we are all together and we can start that planning as at your direction.
So my thought on this is that since we can possibly get a venue that is free, perhaps we should schedule an in-person. And if we have a flare-up of any other variant, it might be easy to pull together a Zoom meeting, a Zoom retreat. Do I have any thoughts on that we should go ahead and schedule something for April and be ready to do a Zoom in case we have a problem with COVID again? Okay, I saw 2 thumbs up. So what do you think about that, Karen? Do you think that might be a way to go?
Yes, I do. We'll go that way.
Okay. As far as the dates in April, I'm assuming that would depend upon what venue is available. So would it be possible to look at different venues and then throw out those dates when they're available, and then we can come back and decide as a organization which one would work for us?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, it looks like Mayor Mills has his hand up.
Oh, he does. Mayor Mills, thank you.
Might I suggest putting out a doodle poll, and then you can gauge who can come on what day and get the maximum amount of possible participants that way.
Great idea. After we get the venues that are available. Okay.
And I might just comment that Sam Taylor from the Broomfield Chamber said they have a 17-person boardroom that has the option of including a hybrid component. So we'll look at that as a venue as well, if that's okay.
Oh, of course. So we have 3 options.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. That's exciting. I'm excited about the retreat. I hope we can do it in person. So now we're moving on to the whiteboard discussion.
And I'm gonna throw a wrench in the works again, Mayor. I think this is the point where we want to talk about the executive board change, and then a ratification of the strategic planning committee membership. So this is yours. This vote on 2022 NATA executive board change is
Yes.
for you to yes, explain. Thank you.
Okay.
Tongue-tied there for a minute.
And we're gonna need a vote on this. So let me explain. As a newly appointed mayor, I did not get the agendas for everything that I have to be on, as well as the things that I want to be on. And in getting those agendas, I discovered that NATA and Platte River Power Authority meetings are on the same date and time. It is important to our city that I be on the PRPA executive board meeting. And the reason for that, for me, as to why I want to be there, is to push our 100% renewable energy by 2030. And Longmont definitely has to have a voice in that group. So at our SPC meeting, we discussed the ability for Lynn Baca, who is vice chair, to switch places with me. And I would be vice chair this year and she would be chair. Had I gotten the agendas for all of these other meetings earlier, I could have put that up immediately when we had the vote on the new board, but I didn't. So I am reaching out to NATA to say, would it be acceptable to you if I stepped back and continued to be vice chair, and Lynn Baca stepped up as vice chair to be chair this year of NATA? And this needs a vote. So, and probably a motion. So can I have some input on that, please?
Joan, I would just like to make a motion to go ahead and accept that as the board direction. So moving Lynn Baca from vice chair to chair and from Mayor Peck from chair to vice chair.
This is Nancy McNally. I second it.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Jessica Sandgren to have the change in the executive board that I continue to be vice chair and Lynn Baca steps up to be chair for this year. And that motion was seconded by Nancy McNally, Mayor McNally. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Those opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much for being so considerate. So Lynn, at this point, I think I'll hand over to you the last part of this agenda, which is the whiteboard discussion.
One more before we do the whiteboard, and thank you for running the meeting today, Mayor Peck. I know what a struggle this was for you because you really wanted to have the leadership of this group this year, but you'll still be influential in everything we do. This is the 2022 Sbc appointments. We just want to have a vote to ratify this. The SPC is made up of, it's a strategic planning committee. We set the agenda and talk about policy initiatives to push forth for NATA. It's always the chair, the vice chair, the treasurer, the immediate past chair, and then we look to have 2 at-large members in communities that aren't already represented at as the executive board. And then to make sure that everyone knows that SPC is open to anybody who wants to attend. Very often people attend SPC to have some input in the agenda. And also any staff members who want to attend can attend SPC. I have a list that we send out, the SPC agenda. I don't send it to everyone on NATA. I think it's confusing when I do that, but if you'd like to be included in the outreach for the SPC agenda or the SPC meeting link, please let Carson know and we'll add you to that list. And absolutely open to anyone on the jurisdictional elected officials or senior staff. It's not open to our general membership.
Okay, thank you for that, Karen. So,
Thank
Lynn, it's yours.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you so much, Karen. So excited to see the new SPC appointments. As Karen had mentioned, that these are open meetings for anyone on NATA to attend. It's going to be a very big year in transportation. We have funding coming from several sources, from federal. So whether you're part of federal funding, whether you're part of the DRCOG process, the state's 260 bill passed last year. So it's a good year to be engaged in transportation, and happy to be the chair for 2022. And then Karen, do we need a motion for this as to include ratify the at-large members?
Yes, I think that's the best way to do this, and that's the way we've done it in the past. So it would be a motion to accept the 2022 SPC appointments.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion, and you're going to be on several screens, so I'm going to scroll through if you just want to make a motion. So this, we've already voted on the officer positions. So this ratification would include at-large members, Mayor Huseman from Commerce City and Mayor McNally from Westminster. And I just want to note for historic purposes that Mayor McNally was probably the founding, if not one of the founding members of NATA. So it's fantastic to have your leadership back, Mayor. So welcome.
I'll make that motion, Lynn. This is Julie from Northland.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Councilmember. And do we have a second?
Second from Guyleen Castriano.
Thank you, Mayor. So with that, I'll take opposition first. Anyone opposed to the ratification? Hearing none, I'll take all those in favor of the ratification of adding 2 members to SBC. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. So that motion passes. And I lost the agenda.
Carson will throw that, there you go, Carson will throw this back up. It's the whiteboard discussion. And it's, someone has their mic on. and
I
they're
have
in
it
a
on.
room. Oh, you do, Lynn. Oh, sorry.
I apologize. I had as these things go, I had an unexpected car repair. And so I'm in the lobby trying to do all the things, get the car fixed. So we had a discussion at SPC regarding the whiteboard. And so these are items that we kind of brainstorm as a brainstorming session of items that we would like to bring back at a future agenda. So if you want to glance over this list, are there any other items that the membership would like to have for discussion coming forward? And I'll mute myself. So if you have a suggestion, go ahead and speak up. So I'll just talk about a couple of them. The Front Range Passenger Rail Special Districts, those part of Dr. Cog. They're looking for committee members to serve on that. And I think that those applications were due earlier this week. As you know, the Colorado 7 or Highway 7 as we know it, that's a Boulder to Brighton corridor. That is a very important east-west corridor for NATA and the region. That's going to intersect at I-25 North. And they're talking, and when I say they, I am talking about CDOT is talking about a transportation hub at Highway 7. So we thought that that was an important thing to bring back. The state legislative update, there's discussions again about a potential greenhouse gas bill coming forward. So I think that we should keep our eye on state legislative issues. And I don't anticipate any other transportation, but greenhouse gas is coming back. So I think that that was one thing that we felt was important to keep our eye on in 2022. Federal infrastructure, those are going to be ongoing discussions, both at what we call FHWA funding, Dr. Cog funding and federal funding. We also have state funding, so we'll keep that on the agenda. Advancing Adams, that is an Adams County transportation plan amongst two other plans and updates. So we'll bring the transportation plan back. That would also kind of segue into, I don't know if you know, the 4 Ps, that's a CDOT planning exercise that we're going to go through to set transportation priorities. The TIP grants, I talked about that, and then the CDOT 10-year project plan update, and that includes part of the projects slated using the State Bill 260 funding. So any other projects or any other agenda items you'd like to add?
Lynn, so I raised my hand because I was going to talk about if there is a need to include the 4P conversations. You included that in the Advancing Adams conversation. Now, not everybody on this call is in Adams County, So I don't know if other 4Ps need to be involved in here, just so the group's aware if there's not any alignment with the tip. So I don't know, I just had that thought and decided I'd throw it out.
I agree with you that this is multi-jurisdictional, so we can, we'll have the 4P discussion, and I think that's by county. But I think it's a good discussion to also have and to hear it multiple times, because I don't think the same representatives are in the same transportation meetings. So let's include the 4P CDOT conversation. Advancing Adams, that would just be a quick update of what we're planning in Adams County before we adopt our comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Any others?
That's correct. CDOT will be doing 4P conversations with all the counties. So Broomfield has their own, and then we'll have Boulder County and Jefferson County and Adams County. So our members belong to those various counties, and we could do, whenever theirs are scheduled, we could have them give an update to NATA when those 4Ps are coming up, and also when the 4Ps are concluded.
Thank you for that, Karen. And, as we go through the year, we can also add items that are timely and up for discussion. So this is not a set agenda for roadmap for 2022. We are flexible enough that we can add things as we go. So anything else? I think that was the last agenda item.
I think I'll just mention that the SPC will take a look at these, and then whatever percolates to the top time-wise, we'll stick that on the next month's agenda. So for example, CDOT's 10-year project plan update is too early to do that, but probably April, May, something like that. I know we're waiting on advancing Adams, but some of these others might come to the forefront, and we'll, because we have them on a list, we'll slot them into the presentation schedule. But as Chair Baca says, anything that comes up, you know how things just sort of come to the top with no forward warning. We'll be sure to capture those as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I suspect this is maybe the time to tell you that next month will be my last NATA meeting as the Smart Community Executive Director. I will be officially retiring February 28th. And I'll still be involved to the extent that I represent you as CDOT Transportation Commissioner, and hoping maybe you'll put me on the agenda occasionally to give you updates from CDOT. It's my understanding that the Board of Directors of Smart Commute will be offering Carson Priest the job of Executive Director of Smart Commute. So there'll be absolutely no no slippage on having the support from Smart Commute. Carson's been doing this for a number of years, and he's going to be a great executive director. So I'll be here next month, and then I'll be here occasionally as a guest. So thanks very much for allowing us to provide the administrative piece of NATA for the last, I think maybe probably about 8 years. We've been in existence 10 years, but I think it was 2 years into it that it was decided that Smart Commute would probably be the best venue to do the administrative work. So thank you very much. I just wanted to throw that in. You'll probably be hearing from others that that I'll be retiring. Wanted to officially let all of you know. And it's been my pleasure serving you.
Congratulations, Karen. We look forward to, yes.
Thank you.
Always blessed when you can make it to retirement, enjoy the next stages of your life. And it'll be an opportunity for you to lean into the CDOT Commission.
Yes.
And it'll be a big year for transportation. So with that, we'll see Karen in February, see all of you in February. Just need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Mayor.
Second.
Thank you, Mayor. Everyone in favor, say aye to adjourn.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, fantastic. Be safe, everyone. See you in February.
Bye, y'all.